Hi, I'm Johnny from Papier-mâché.com, and in my last video I showed you the process of putting this clay model of my dragon together, and this video was supposed to be totally about adding the plaster cloth. The rest of the dragon's all going to be papier-mâché clay over an armature, but this part of it is going to be plaster cloth just because it's a little bit faster. But I changed my mind on a couple of things. First of all, you can see that I added a few more of these spikes just because he was looking a little bit too horsey with just spikes where the mane would go. These down here just happen to have fallen off temporarily. I'll be putting those back on. Now I'm going to change the horns, because even though the original drawing had straight horns, now that I'm looking at him, once I moved his ears down just a little bit, I realized that I want more of a sweeping horn. So I'm going to be using this wire. I got this years ago, a roll of this wire. I think they called it merchant wire for some reason. I could be wrong. I don't know what it's called. It's heavy steel, I believe. And I'm going to use this instead, and I'm going to be wrapping it with aluminum foil to make a nice curved, I hope, horn. Let me see here if I can get these out without totally wrecking it. I did put a plastic bag over this fellow last night so that he didn't dry out entirely. So that seemed to have worked. Now I'm going to need to have as much of the wire actually in contact with the plaster cloth as I can get, because in fact once I open this up and take the clay out, I'll probably have to put more plaster cloth on the inside so that the wire is completely surrounded. I don't want it to be real easy for somebody to just grab a horn and start ripping it out. So I'm just putting these here now just to get a feel for it. To see if I like it or not. And hopefully you can see that a little bit. So now I'm going to put this aluminum foil on there, and obviously I need to do that off of the dragon, so I just need to know where to start it. So if I can remember. You see I'm twisting this on there. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. I want to twist in the horn. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this guy up. Hopefully it'll taper reasonably thin out at the end. Okay, I think that's going to work. So let's see here. Just kind of hold it on there so that the plaster cloth will cover it. And now I need to fill that space in. I think this is going to work. I think it has a nicer feel to it, but let me see here. There. I'll go ahead and do the other one, and then it's time for the plaster cloth. I've cut some small pieces just for these attachments. I'll do those first and let those harden a little bit before I start on the rest. Now, since this is a fairly messy process, and I don't really want my camera to be totally encrusted in plaster. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off and I'll finish this up. This, I think, is fairly obvious. I'm just going to very carefully add plaster cloth to my entire dragon head. It'll be 2 layers. I happen to be using some plaster cloth from Brick in the Yard. And it does happen to be, like I said, medical grade plaster cloth, so that it will firm up very quickly. But if you want to use plaster cloth, you can get some from the hobby store in your town, and it should work okay. It's not as, won't dry as fast, or harden as fast, I should say. And it isn't quite as strong, I don't think, because the hobby version, I don't believe it has as much plaster in it. But since we're going to be putting a very thin layer of papier-mâché clay over this anyway, in order to get those scales on, that actually wouldn't matter, because the strength, you'll be getting a lot of strength from the papier-mâché clay, so that wouldn't make any difference anyway. Or, of course, if you're using oil-based modeling clay, you can go ahead and do this part of it with paper strips and paste. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off while my hands are still reasonably clean, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got him all covered. I think I got 2 layers of plaster cloth over the whole thing, and I did some put a few more extra pieces here to give him a nice heavy attachment for those horns. Now, there were a couple of tricky places. I kind of wish I could have left the camera on. Maybe next time, if I do anything this intricate again, I'll try to talk somebody else into turning the camera on and off for me. It just isn't possible when you're just totally covered in plaster. I didn't get too much on me, though. So now what I'm going to do is going to go have a cup of coffee. This is already hardening. It's only been like 2 minutes since I put the last one on, but it's hardening already. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and start thinking about how I'm going to cut it all apart so that I can pull the pieces off. And I'm also going to go look all over the house to try to find where my X-Acto knife is. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, it's quite hard now, and I think I've decided how to cut it. It would be the easiest thing to do, I think, probably for cutting it apart at least, would be to just take it straight down the middle and then just pop the 2 pieces apart. But if I did that, I'm going to have, when I put it back together with more strips of plaster cloth, it's going to end up with probably more thickness right here in his muzzle than I really want. So what I think I'm going to do is cut it like yay. Just pull the front off, hopefully. Wish me luck. I think it'll work. And then cut the back part just down one side of that spine. So let's go ahead and see if this works. Trying not to distort the shape of the plaster cloth either, because it's not real thick and it's only been curing for about 10 minutes, maybe half an hour. So it would be possible to distort it. Okay, now we have 3 pieces. Because of the weight of the clay right now, it's going to be really easy to deform the shape of the dragon if I don't be really careful how I lay it down. So I'm going to probably hold on to it and then just pull this out. And then I'll come right back and we'll start putting them back together again. Okay, I've got all the pieces apart now. So they're a little bit messy on the inside. I'm not worrying about it because it's going to be on the inside and no one can see it. I did actually take a sponge to this one to try to clean it up, and that was a real mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. I did reinforce this partly because it was a little bit wobbly in that one spot, but partly I also wanted to know for sure that the plaster cloth was going to stick. I reinforced the horns wire, and it did seem to work. So that's a go. The one thing I did discover when I took it apart is that the plaster cloth did not stick to the poster board, which was really surprising. That's okay. I'm going to be covering it with the papier-mâché clay anyway, but it was kind of disappointing. I'm going to cut some strips of plaster cloth so that they're a little bit thinner, about maybe 3 inches wide instead of 6. Now this part is going to be really tricky because gravity is working against me. I need to have that muzzle on there straight, and I need it to not pull off just from the weight until the plaster cloth has a chance to harden. So let's see if this is going to work. There are times when 2 or 3 more hands would really help. Okay, now if I can just hold still about 2 minutes, that should get hard. Be able to turn him over. Hopefully it's not too twisted. That's the one thing I'm worried about. If it's twisted, it's going to be kind of hard to fix. Almost every other boo-boo on this will be able to be fixed just with the papier-mâché clay. Okay, he's all back together again, and he seems to be straight. I don't have to rip his nose off and put it back together, fortunately. It seems to be fairly solid right now. Kat's going to help me. I am going to leave it at least 24 hours, and then I'm going to go to the store down to Lowe's and get a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of maybe 1 or 1.5 inch foam board. I'm going to use that for the pattern on the inside of the armature for his legs and his body. I know a lot of people have been mentioning on the blog that, boy, wouldn't it be fun. Come here, kitty. Okay, that'll shut her up. People have been mentioning that they think it would be fun to make a big dragon and give it to their local school or library, which I think is a fantastic idea. But for the armature that I'm going to be making, it won't work for that, I don't think. Or maybe I just am more paranoid than some people are. But since I'm making mine out of foam board, just to keep it light enough so that I can carry it around and move it in the house, I don't think it would be strong enough to know for sure that if a little kid tried to climb on it, it wouldn't fall over or they wouldn't hurt themselves in some way. I think if you wanted to have small children playing around it, you would need probably at least a carpenter to help you build the actual frame of your armature. After that, everything else should work out just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my foam board maybe tomorrow or the next day. Then I'm just going to lay this guy down on the board and start drawing it out and cut it and just hope that I get it the right shape the first time around. Sometimes that works. I also might add a little bit more of a horn here, maybe more of like a rhino horn, because I'm thinking right at this point he just seems a little bit too tame. I don't know. Tell me what you think. So, come see me, ultimatepapier-mâché.com, and keep an eye out for the next dragon video.